The hospital lights hummed with the same cold certainty that told Penny Kingsley her sister was dying, and no doctor on earth could stop it. She pressed her forehead against the window of Lily's room, watching her 14-year-old sister sleep fitfully beneath layers of thin blankets. The leukemia had ravaged her body over the past year, turning her from a vibrant, laughing girl into something fragile and pale. Every treatment had failed. Every prayer had gone unanswered. The doctors gave her 2 weeks at most. Penny's reflection in the glass showed a woman aged beyond her 23 years. Dark circles shadowed her green eyes, and her chestnut hair hung limp around her shoulders. She'd dropped out of college to work 3 jobs, trying to cover the medical bills their dead parents' insurance wouldn't touch. It hadn't been enough. Nothing was enough. Miss Kingsley? A nurse appeared beside her, sympathy softening her professional expression. Visiting hours are over. I know. Penny's voice came out hoarse. Just 1 more minute. The nurse nodded and walked away, her shoes squeaking on the linoleum. Penny entered the room, careful not to wake Lily as she pressed a kiss to her sister's clammy forehead. The girl stirred slightly, murmuring something incoherent before settling back into troubled sleep. Penny left the hospital and stepped into the November night, pulling her threadbare coat tighter against the wind that knifed through downtown Portland. The city sprawled before her, all glass towers and historic buildings, normal people living normal lives. None of them knew that everything could shatter in an instant. None of them carried the weight of watching someone they loved slip away day by day, hour by hour. She walked without direction, her feet carrying her through streets that blurred together. She should go home to her studio apartment, should try to sleep before her shift at the diner started at 6. But sleep meant dreams, and dreams meant seeing Lily's face as life faded from it, over and over again. You look like someone carrying an impossible burden. The voice came from the shadows of an alley between 2 brick buildings. Penny stopped, her heart lurching. She'd lived in Portland her whole life and knew better than to engage with strangers in dark alleys at midnight. But exhaustion and grief had eroded her sense of self-preservation. She turned toward the voice. A woman emerged from the darkness, and Penny's breath caught. The stranger was ethereally beautiful, with skin so pale it seemed to glow in the dim streetlight. Her hair fell in waves of pure white to her waist, and her eyes gleamed in unsettling silver. She wore an expensive black coat that belonged in a fashion magazine, not on the streets of Portland. I'm fine, Penny said automatically, taking a step back. You're lying. The woman moved closer, her movements unnaturally fluid. I can smell the desperation on you, the grief, the wild, frantic hope that something, anything, might save the one you love. Penny's mouth went dry. Who are you? My name is Seraphine. I serve the Court of Shadows. The woman tilted her head, studying Penny like a fascinating specimen. And I have been watching you, Penny Kingsley. Watching you sacrifice everything for a sister the human world has condemned to death. How do you know my name? I know many things. Seraphine's lips curved in a smile that revealed teeth just slightly too sharp. I know your sister has days left, not weeks. I know you've exhausted every option your world offers. And I know that the king has taken an interest in your situation. The king? Penny's mind raced, trying to make sense of this surreal conversation. What are you talking about? Seraphine's eyes flashed. The Vampire King, child. Sovereign of the endless night, lord of blood and bone, he who has ruled our kind for 1,000 years. She stepped closer, and Penny caught a scent like midnight roses in ancient stone. He can save your sister. He has the power to cure any mortal illness, to grant life where death has claimed it. Penny's knees nearly buckled. Vampires aren't real, aren't they? In a movement too fast to follow, Seraphine was suddenly behind her, cold breath against Penny's ear. We are very real, and we have walked among you since before your cities were built. We simply prefer the shadows. She circled back to face Penny, silver eyes gleaming. The king has authorized me to make you an offer. He will save your sister's life, cure her completely. In exchange, you will enter into a blood pact with him. What does that mean? It means you will be bound to him forever. Your life will be his. Your blood will sustain him. You will belong to the Vampire King in every way that matters, for as long as you draw a breath. Seraphine's expression was unreadable. It is not an offer he makes lightly. Blood pacts are sacred among our kind, eternal and unbreakable. Penny's mind spun. This was insane, impossible. She should run, should scream, should do anything except stand here considering an offer from a creature that couldn't exist. But Lily's face floated in her memory. Lily, who loved art and terrible jokes and wanted to be a marine biologist. Lily, who was dying because the universe was cruel and random and unfair. Why? Penny heard herself ask. Why would he do this? Seraphine's smile turned mysterious. The king has his reasons. Do you accept? I need to think. Your sister has 3 days. Seraphine's voice cut like a blade. perhaps less. This offer expires at dawn. If you wish to accept, come to the Ashford building on 5th Street, penthouse level. The king will be waiting. She began to fade back into the shadows. Choose wisely, Penny Kingsley. Not all prices are too high when measured against love. Then she was gone, vanished as if she'd never been there at all. Penny stood alone on the empty street, her heart hammering against her ribs. She looked down at her hands, half expecting to find evidence that the last 5 minutes had been a hallucination brought on by stress and exhaustion. But deep in her bones, she knew it had been real. She knew what her answer would be. The Ashford building was one of Portland's most exclusive addresses, a sleek tower of black glass and steel that housed luxury penthouses for the obscenely wealthy. Penny had passed it 1,000 times without ever imagining she'd step inside. The lobby was all polished marble and modern art, staffed by a doorman in an immaculate uniform who looked at her worn jeans and faded jacket with barely concealed disdain. "I'm here to see the penthouse," Penny said, her voice steadier than she felt. The doorman's expression changed instantly, shifting from contempt to something like fear. "Mrs. Kingsley, of course. The private elevator is waiting." He knew her name. Of course he did. The elevator was all mirrors and dark wood, silent as it climbed 50 floors. Penny watched her reflection multiply into infinity, 1,000 versions of herself making the same impossible choice. When the doors opened, they revealed a foyer decorated with what looked like genuine medieval tapestries and furniture that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. "Enter." The voice rolled through the space like thunder, deep and commanding and utterly inhuman. Penny stepped out of the elevator. The penthouse sprawled before her, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering cityscape. But she barely registered the view. Her attention locked on the figure standing by the windows, silhouetted against the lights of Portland. He turned and Penny's breath stopped. The Vampire King was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with human standards, and everything to do with something older, darker, and infinitely more dangerous. He stood well over 6 feet, with the kind of presence that filled a room just by existing. His skin was porcelain pale, luminous in the low light, and his hair fell in a sheet of pure white to his shoulders. His features were sharp and aristocratic, all elegant lines and cruel beauty. But it was his eyes that held her captive, deep crimson, ancient and knowing, burning with an intelligence that had watched centuries pass. He wore black from head to toe, expensive clothing, tailored perfectly to his lean, powerful frame. Everything about him screamed predator, from his predatory grace to the slight curve of his lips that suggested he knew exactly how devastating his appearance was. Penny Kingsley. Her name in his voice sent shivers down her spine. He moved toward her with that same fluid motion Seraphine had displayed, covering the distance between them in heartbeats. "You came. You said you could save my sister." Penny forced herself to meet those crimson eyes, even as every instinct screamed at her to run. "Is it true?" "I do not make false promises." He circled her slowly, studying her from every angle. "Yes, I can cure your sister's illness. A single drop of my blood will cleanse the cancer from her body, restore her to perfect health. She will live a long, full human life, and in exchange, I give you mine. In exchange, you enter a blood pact with me. You will live here in my domain. I will drink from you when I require sustenance. You will be under my protection, subject to my will, bound to me until death claims you decades hence." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from his body. "You will be mine, Penny Kingsley, completely and irrevocably mine." Penny's hands clenched at her sides. "Will it hurt when you drink?" Something flickered in his crimson eyes. "That depends. If you fight, yes. If you accept it, no. In time, you may even find pleasure in it." His head tilted slightly. "Many do." "Do you have other people in blood pacts?" "No." The answer was flat, definitive. "You would be the first in 200 years. Blood pacts are not toys or casual arrangements. They are sacred bonds recognized by every vampire in existence. To break one means death." "Then why me?" Penny heard her voice crack. "Why offer this to a complete stranger?" For a long moment the Vampire King simply looked at her. Then he moved to a nearby cabinet and poured dark liquid into a crystal glass. Wine, she realized. He held it without drinking, staring into its depths. "Seraphine brought you to my attention 3 months ago," he said finally. "She was hunting in the hospital district when she sensed your grief, your love for your sister." His crimson eyes found hers again. "Vampires are drawn to strong emotions. They call to us like beacons. Seraphine followed you, observed you sacrificing everything for a cause already lost. She told me of your devotion, your strength, your refusal to surrender even when surrender was the only logical choice." He set down the glass untouched. "I am old, Penny Kingsley. Older than this city, older than this country. I have seen empires rise and fall, watched humanity stumble through centuries of darkness into light, And in all that time I have met precious few humans capable of true, selfless love. You possess something rare, something I find myself wanting to preserve." "Preserve," Penny repeated. Like a butterfly in glass, his lips curved slightly. "More like a flame in the darkness, something beautiful and alive and worth protecting." He extended his hand. "Do you accept? Will you trade your freedom for your sister's life?" Penny looked at his pale, elegant hand. This was her last moment of choice. Once she took it, everything would change forever. She'd be bound to this ancient, powerful creature, living a half-life in shadows while everyone she knew went on without her. But Lily would live. Lily would grow up, would go to college, would fall in love and chase her dreams and experience all the joy the world had to offer. Penny took his hand, his fingers closed around hers, cool and strong. The moment their skin touched, she felt something like electricity arc between them, a connection that made her gasp. The Vampire King's eyes flared brighter, and she saw his pupils dilate. "The pact is witnessed," he murmured. Then louder, "Seraphine." The white-haired woman materialized from a doorway Penny hadn't noticed. She carried a silver tray bearing an ornate dagger and a crystal vial. "The blood pact requires blood," the king explained. "Yours and mine mixed and sealed with words of binding. Once spoken, it cannot be undone." Penny's heart thundered, but she nodded. He released her hand and took the dagger, drawing it across his palm in one smooth motion. Blood welled up, so dark it was nearly black, gleaming like liquid rubies. He held his hand over the vial, letting several drops fall into it. Then he wiped the blade clean and offered it to Penny. She took it with shaking hands. The metal was cold against her palm as she pressed the edge to her skin and pulled. Pain flared bright and sharp, and her blood, ordinary, human red, dripped into the vial to mingle with his. Seraphine swirled the mixture and handed it to the king. He held it up, the combined blood catching the light. "I, Casimir, King of Shadows, Lord of the Endless Night, do bind myself to Penny Kingsley by blood and oath. Her life is mine to protect, her blood mine to claim, her soul mine to shelter until death parts us. By the ancient laws, by the old magic, by the power in my veins, I accept this pact." His crimson eyes locked on hers. "Drink." He pressed the vial to her lips. Penny closed her eyes and swallowed. The blood tasted like copper and winter nights and something indefinably ancient. It burned cold down her throat, and then suddenly her entire body felt like it was on fire from the inside. She gasped, would have fallen, but Casimir caught her, holding her against his chest as power rolled through her in waves. "Easy," he murmured against her hair. "The bond is forming. Breathe through it." Penny clung to him, her fingers digging into his shirt as the sensation intensified. She could feel him now, feel his presence in her mind like a second heartbeat, ancient and powerful and vast as an ocean. And somehow, impossibly, she knew he could feel her too, her fear and determination and desperate, aching love for her sister. Then, as quickly as it began, the burning faded. Penny sagged in Casimir's arms, exhausted and changed in ways she didn't yet understand. "It is done," he said softly. "You are mine now, Penny Kingsley, and I am bound to you." When she finally found her voice, it came out as a whisper. "My sister will be cured by dawn." Casimir released her slowly, making sure she could stand on her own. "I will visit the hospital tonight and attend to her personally. By the time she wakes tomorrow, the cancer will be gone. Her doctors will call it a miracle." Relief crashed over Penny so powerfully that tears spilled down her cheeks. "Thank you," she choked out. "Thank you." Something unreadable crossed Casimir's face. Then he turned away, his long coat sweeping behind him. "Seraphine will show you to your quarters. Rest. We will discuss the details of your new life tomorrow." He walked toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, his pale hair catching the city lights, and stood with his back to her, a king surveying his domain, utterly alone despite the power that radiated from him like heat from a star. Penny wanted to say something, anything, but no words came. Seraphine touched her shoulder gently. "Come," the vampire woman said, her voice surprisingly kind. "You need sleep, and the king needs time to adjust to having a human in his home again. This way." As Penny followed her through the penthouse, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just stepped into a story whose ending was already written, though she couldn't yet read the words. Penny woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the disorienting realization that she was in the most luxurious bedroom she'd ever seen. The bed was enormous, draped in silk sheets that probably cost more than her car. The furniture was all dark wood and elegant lines, the kind of pieces you saw in museums behind velvet ropes. For a moment she thought it had all been a dream, the mysterious woman in the alley, the vampire king, the blood pact. Then she looked down at her palm and saw the thin silver scar where she'd cut herself with the dagger. It hadn't been there before. The wound had healed impossibly fast, leaving only that faint mark. Real. It was all real. Penny threw off the covers and found herself wearing silk pajamas she didn't remember putting on. Someone, Seraphine, probably must have changed her while she slept. The thought should have been disturbing, but she was too focused on getting to the hospital to care. She found her clothes cleaned and folded on a chair, dressed quickly, and ventured out into the penthouse. In daylight, the space was even more impressive. The main living area was vast and open, decorated in blacks and deep reds with art that looked centuries old. Everything screamed wealth and power and immortality. "The king is in his resting chamber," Seraphine said, appearing silently beside her. Penny jumped, her heart racing. The vampire woman's lips quirked. "Apologies, I forgot how easily humans startle. He cannot emerge until sunset sunlight would destroy him, but he left instructions for you." She handed Penny a phone, expensive, new, definitely not hers. "Your sister has been treated. The hospital called your old number several times. You should return their calls." Penny's hands shook as she took the phone. It was already unlocked, showing a dozen missed calls from Portland General Hospital. She hit redial with trembling fingers. "Miss Kingsley?" The doctor's voice was frantic with excitement. "Where are you? You need to come to the hospital right away. It's about Lily. Is she okay?" Penny's voice cracked. "She's more than okay. I don't know how to explain this, but when we ran her blood work this morning, the leukemia was completely gone. Not in remission, gone. Every test shows she's in perfect health. It's impossible, but it's true. We're running more tests to confirm, but Miss Kingsley, I think your sister just experienced a genuine miracle." Penny pressed her free hand to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up and looked at Seraphine through blurry eyes. "He really did it. The king always keeps his word." Seraphine's expression softened slightly. "Go to your sister, but remember you must return by sunset. The pact requires your presence." A car was waiting for her downstairs, a sleek black vehicle with a driver who asked no questions. Penny watched the city blur past, her mind reeling. 24 hours ago, she'd been a broke waitress watching her sister die. Now she was bound to a vampire king, living in a penthouse watching miracles unfold. What the hell had she gotten herself into? The hospital was chaos. Doctors swarmed Lily's room, running tests and whispering to each other in voices tight with disbelief. And in the center of it all was Lily, sitting up in bed with color in her cheeks for the first time in months, looking confused but undeniably healthy. "Penny!" Lily's face lit up when she saw her sister. "The doctors are saying the weirdest things. They think I'm cured, but that's impossible, right?" Penny rushed to the bed and pulled her sister into a fierce hug, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and the simple, miraculous fact of her warmth and life. "It's not impossible," she whispered. "Sometimes miracles happen." "But how? Does it matter?" Penny pulled back, cupping Lily's face in her hands. "You're okay. You're going to be okay. That's all that matters." They spent the day in a blur of tests and questions from baffled doctors who couldn't explain the impossible remission. Penny stayed by Lily's side, holding her hand and marveling at the color returning to her skin, the strength in her voice, the life blazing in her eyes. But as the sun began to set outside the windows, Penny felt a pull deep in her chest, not painful but insistent, the pact. She was needed back at the penthouse. "I have to go," she told Lily reluctantly. "What? Why?" "Penny, they're probably going to discharge me tomorrow. We can finally go home." Home. Penny's heart clenched. She couldn't go home. She didn't have a home anymore, not really. Everything had changed. "I have some things I need to take care of," she said carefully. "But I'll be back tomorrow, okay? I promise." Lily's brow furrowed. "Is something wrong? You seem different." "I'm just tired." Penny forced a smile. "It's been a long few months. Get some sleep, okay? I'll see you tomorrow." She kissed her sister's forehead and left before Lily could ask more questions. The black car was waiting outside, and the driver had her back to the Ashford building as the last light faded from the sky. Casimir was waiting in the main living area when she arrived, standing by the windows with his back to her. He'd changed clothes since last night, now wearing a dark burgundy shirt that made his pale skin seem to glow and his white hair shimmer like moonlight. "Your sister is well," he said without turning around. It wasn't a question. "Yes." Penny set down her bag, suddenly unsure what to do with her hands. "Thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough." "You already have." He turned finally, those crimson eyes finding her across the room. "You honored the pact by returning. Many humans would have run." "I gave my word." "So you did." He moved toward her with that predatory grace, closing the distance until he stood directly in front of her. This close, she could see that his eyes weren't uniformly red. They held depths of color, shadows and light shifting like garnets in firelight. "You must be hungry. Seraphine has prepared food." As if summoned, the white-haired vampire appeared with a tray bearing what looked like an elaborate dinner. She set it on a nearby table and disappeared without a word. Penny's stomach growled, betraying her. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. "Sit," Casimir commanded. When she hesitated, his expression softened fractionally. "Please." The food was incredible, some kind of pasta and cream sauce with vegetables and fresh bread that melted in her mouth. Penny ate while Casimir watched, seated across from her with a glass of red wine he didn't drink. "Do you ever eat?" she asked between bites. "Food, I mean. Or is it just blood? We can consume food if we choose, but it provides no sustenance. Blood is all that truly feeds us." His long fingers traced the rim of his glass. "I sometimes drink wine for the taste, the ritual of it, a reminder of what it was to be human, even though those memories are 1,000 years old and faded as ancient parchment." 1,000 years. Penny set down her fork. What was the world like back then? Brutal, beautiful, simpler in some ways, infinitely more complex in others. His eyes grew distant. "I was born in the Carpathian Mountains in what is now Romania, the son of a nobleman, trained in warfare and politics. I died in battle at 26, and woke 3 days later as something new. Something hungry. Who turned you? A vampire queen who needed soldiers for her war against rival courts. She gave me power and immortality and taught me to kill with elegance." His lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "I repaid her by taking her throne after she grew weak from centuries of fighting. Such is the way of our kind. Power respects only greater power. Do you regret it?" Penny asked softly. "Becoming what you are?" Casimir's eyes snapped back to her, suddenly intense. "Would you regret trading your life to save your sister?" "No, then you understand." He stood, moving to the windows overlooking the city. "Regret is a luxury for those who had choices. I was dying, and someone offered me forever. I took it. I have spent the last millennium building an empire in the shadows, ruling over vampires who would tear each other apart without a strong hand to guide them. I have purpose, power, immortality." He turned back to her. "And now I have you." The way he said it made heat rise in Penny's cheeks. She stood, suddenly needing space. "What happens now? What does being in a blood pact actually mean day to day?" "It means you live here, under my protection. Any vampire who harms you will face my wrath, which is a death sentence. You are marked as mine." He crossed to her in 2 long strides, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "It means I will feed from you when the hunger demands it. Not every day, but regularly. And it means you are bound to obey me in matters that concern your safety and the security of my court, so I'm a prisoner. You are protected." His hand came up, cool fingers tilting her chin higher. "There is a difference. You may go where you wish during daylight hours, see your sister, maintain whatever parts of your old life you can manage, but you will return each night. You will be here safe, where nothing can touch you. Nothing except you." "Nothing except me," he agreed, his thumb brushing her jawline. The touch sent shivers through her. "I am the only danger you need fear now, Penny Kingsley, and I have bound myself by ancient magic not to harm you. The pact protects you as much as it binds you." She should pull away, should maintain some distance from this beautiful, dangerous creature who owned her now by blood and oath. But she found herself frozen, caught in his crimson gaze like a moth in flame. "When?" she whispered. "When will you need to feed?" "Soon." His eyes dropped to her throat and she saw his pupils dilate. "Tonight perhaps, or tomorrow. The bond between us will tell me when your blood is ready. When the pact has settled enough to make the feeding safe. Will it hurt? I told you before, only if you fight." His hand dropped away and he stepped back, giving her space. "I am not a savage, Penny. I am a king. I have fed for centuries without causing unnecessary pain. Trust me to know what I'm doing." Trust. Such a small word for such an enormous ask. But what choice did she have? She'd made her bargain, saved her sister's life, and now she had to live with the consequences. "I should sleep," she said, suddenly exhausted. "It's been a long day." Casimir nodded. "Your chambers are yours. No one will disturb you there unless you wish it. If you need anything, call for Seraphine. She serves as my second and manages the household." Penny turned to go, then paused. "Casimir? Yes? Thank you. For Lily. For everything. I know I sold myself to you, but you could have been crueler about it. So thank you." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise perhaps, or something softer. "You are welcome, Penny Kingsley. Sleep well." She left him standing alone by the windows, a white-haired king in his castle of glass and steel, watching over a city that didn't know he existed. 3 days passed in a strange new rhythm. Penny spent her days with Lily, watching her sister grow stronger by the hour. The doctors cleared her for discharge with strict instructions for follow-up appointments that Penny knew would show nothing but continued perfect health. The miracle had held. Penny helped Lily pack up the hospital room, carefully avoiding questions about where she'd been staying and why she couldn't come home. "I got a live-in job," she finally lied, hating the deception but unable to tell the truth. "A wealthy family that needs a personal assistant. The pay is incredible, but I have to stay on site. I'm sorry, Lils, I know it's not what we planned. Lily's face fell. We're not going back to the apartment. You are. I've paid the rent through the end of the year. That much was true. Casimir had taken care of all her outstanding debts with a single phone call, erasing years of financial stress like it was nothing, and I'll visit all the time. But I have to take this job. The money's too good to pass up. Is it safe? This family? Penny thought of Casimir, of his crimson eyes and ancient power, and the way he looked at her like she was simultaneously prey and something precious. Yes, she said. I'm safe, I promise. That night she returned to the penthouse to find Casimir waiting in the main room. He stood as she entered, and she noticed he moved differently than he had before, with an edge of tension, a coiled energy that made the air feel electric. The hunger has come, he said without preamble. I need to feed tonight. Penny's heart kicked into overdrive. She'd known this was coming, had been bracing for it, but the reality still sent adrenaline flooding through her system. Okay, she managed. What do I need to do? Come here. His voice was low, commanding. When she crossed to him on shaking legs, he took her hand gently. The first feeding is always the most intense. The pact amplifies the connection between us. You will feel what I feel, and I will taste not just your blood but your emotions, your essence. His crimson eyes searched hers. If at any point you need me to stop, say my name 3 times. That is your safe word. I will stop immediately, no matter how deep the hunger runs. Do you understand? Yes. Are you certain you want to do this? There was something unexpected in his expression, concern maybe. Or respect. I can wait another day if you need more time to prepare. Penny shook her head. She'd been on edge for 3 days waiting for this moment. Better to face it now than let anticipation build into terror. I'm as ready as I'll ever be, just be gentle. Casimir's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. Always, he murmured. Then he guided her to a nearby couch, sitting and pulling her down to rest against his chest. Relax. Let yourself sink into the sensation rather than fighting it. I will take care of you. Penny tried to relax, tried to slow her racing heart as Casimir's cool fingers brushed her hair away from her neck. She felt his breath cold, unnecessary for a creature that didn't need to breathe ghost across her skin. Beautiful, he whispered. Then his lips touched her throat, a kiss that made her gasp, and she felt the sharp pierce of fangs breaking skin. Pain flared bright and hot for an instant, but then something else rushed in behind it. Pleasure, dark and overwhelming, flooding her system like liquid fire. She moaned, her hands clutching at Casimir's shirt as sensation washed over her in waves. She could feel his hunger, vast and ancient, and beneath it something else: satisfaction, relief, and a strange tenderness that made no sense. He drank deeply, one hand cradling her head, the other wrapped around her waist, holding her close. Penny felt herself sinking into him, into the bond between them, into a connection that was far more intimate than she'd imagined. She could feel his approval, his pleasure, not just in her blood but in her, the taste of her courage and love and determination. When he finally pulled back, she whimpered at the loss. He held her carefully, one hand pressing against the bite mark. She felt warmth spread from his palm, and when he pulled away, the wound was closed, healed completely. You did well, he murmured, his voice rough. So well. How do you feel? Penny tried to form words, but her brain felt fuzzy and distant. Dizzy, she managed. Warm, strange. The euphoria will pass in a few minutes. The pact bond amplifies everything for the first few feedings. He adjusted his hold, cradling her more securely. Rest, I have you. She should protest, should maintain some dignity, but her body felt heavy and languid. She let her head rest against his chest and closed her eyes, feeling his cool presence surround her like armor. That was nothing like I expected, she whispered. What did you expect? Pain, fear, something awful. She opened her eyes to find him watching her intently. Not that. His lips curved slightly. The pact is designed to be sustainable. If feeding was only pain, no human would survive it for long. The pleasure is necessary, a built-in reward that makes the bond bearable for both parties. His fingers combed gently through her hair. Though I admit, you taste extraordinary. I have fed from many humans over the centuries, but none quite like you. Is that good or bad? Good. The word came out almost reverent. Very good. They sat in silence for a while, Penny gradually coming back to herself as the euphoria faded to a pleasant buzz. Eventually she found the strength to sit up, putting a little distance between them. I should probably eat something, she said. I feel like I just ran a marathon. Seraphine has already prepared food, and you should drink water. Hydration is important after feeding. Casimir stood with fluid grace, offering his hand to help her up. When she took it, he held on a moment longer than necessary. You handled that with remarkable courage, Penny. Many humans panic the first time. I trust you. The words came out before she could think them through. I don't know why, but I do. Something shifted in Casimir's expression, surprise giving way to something warmer, more complex. "That is a precious gift," he said softly. "One I do not take lightly." The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Days with Lily, watching her sister reclaim her life with a joy that made every sacrifice worthwhile. Lily enrolled in online classes, started painting again, made plans for the future. She complained about Penny's absence, but she was alive to complain, and that was everything. Nights belonged to Casimir. Penny found herself drawn into the strange, shadowed world of vampire society. The penthouse received frequent visitors, elegant, dangerous creatures with pale skin and ancient eyes who bowed to Casimir and regarded Penny with curiosity and thinly veiled hunger. "They envy me," Casimir told her one night after a particularly tense meeting with a visiting vampire lord. "A human in blood pact is rare. One who carries herself with dignity is rarer still. You are a symbol of my power, proof that I can inspire loyalty even from mortals." "I'm not loyal because you're powerful," Penny said. "I'm loyal because you keep your promises." He studied her for a long moment. "You see the distinction? Most do not." She learned about vampire politics, the complex web of courts and territories, the ancient laws that governed their kind, the constant subtle warfare between powerful vampires vying for influence. Casimir ruled the Western courts with an iron hand, respected and feared in equal measure. He was brilliant and ruthless and surprisingly fair, settling disputes with logic when possible and overwhelming force when necessary. And he was lonely. Penny saw it in the quiet moments when he stood by the windows watching the city and thought no one was looking. Saw it in how he lingered after feeding, holding her close longer than strictly necessary. Saw it in the way he listened when she talked about her day, her life. Her thoughts, like her mundane human concerns, were fascinating instead of trivial. The feedings became easier. The initial fear faded, replaced by a strange anticipation. Penny found herself aware of when Casimir needed to feed before he said anything, feeling his hunger through the bond like a distant ache. And when he fed, the pleasure was overwhelming, a connection that left her feeling closer to him each time. It was dangerous, she knew, letting herself care about him, letting the bond become something more than a transaction. He was a vampire king who'd lived 1,000 years. She was a human girl who'd stumbled into his world out of desperation. This wasn't a fairy tale, but her heart didn't seem to care about logic. It was a cold December night when everything changed. Penny was reading in the library, a room lined floor to ceiling with books in dozens of languages, some so old they looked like they might crumble at a touch, when she heard raised voices from the main living area. She set down her book and crept to the doorway. Casimir stood facing 3 vampires she'd never seen before, his posture rigid with barely contained fury. "You overstep, Lord Corvus," Casimir said, his voice dangerously soft. "I have made my position clear." The vampire he addressed was tall and broad-shouldered, with white hair pulled into a severe ponytail and eyes like chips of ice. "Your position is absurd, Your Majesty. Entering a blood pact with a human, giving her access to our world, it sets a dangerous precedent. I am the king, I set the precedents, and we are the council." Corvus's voice dripped disdain. "We have governed alongside the throne for centuries. This decision affects all of us. The human is a security risk. Penny is under my protection." Each word fell like a hammer blow. "Anyone who threatens her threatens me directly." "Then perhaps," said a female vampire with hair like moonlight, "the king's judgment has been compromised. Blood pacts create attachments, feelings. Surely you remember what happened the last time you allowed a human close." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. "You dare speak of Isadora?" Casimir's voice could have cut glass. Penny's breath caught. "Who was Isadora?" "We dare because we must," Corvus said. "That human betrayed you, nearly destroyed the Western courts. And now you bind yourself to another? History repeats, Your Majesty. This girl will be your downfall. Get out." Casimir's power rolled through the room like thunder, making the windows rattle. "Get out of my home before I remind you why challenging a king is suicide." The 3 vampires exchanged glances, then bowed stiffly and left. The moment the elevator doors closed behind them, Casimir sagged slightly, one hand braced against the window. Penny stepped into the room. "Who's Isadora?" He stiffened, then turned slowly. His crimson eyes were blazing with emotion, anger and pain, and something raw. "You heard. Hard not to. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." He turned back to the window, shoulders tense. "Go back to your reading, Casimir. I said I'm fine." The snap in his voice made her flinch. Penny should leave, should respect his privacy and his clear desire to be alone. But something in the set of his shoulders, the carefully controlled fury radiating from him, made her move closer instead. "Tell me about her," she said softly. "Please." For a long moment she thought he'd refuse. Then his shoulders slumped infinitesimally. "Isadora was human," he said, his voice flat. 200 years ago I bound myself to her in blood pact, much as I have bound myself to you. She was brilliant, beautiful, passionate about life. I thought he paused, his jaw working. I thought she understood what the pact meant, the honor of it. But she was a spy, sent by a rival court to infiltrate my inner circle. She fed them information for months, weakening my position, turning my own people against me. When I discovered the truth, she begged for mercy. Did you give it to her? No. The word was cold, absolute. I executed her according to vampire law, along with everyone who'd helped her. The Western courts nearly fell into civil war. It took decades to rebuild the trust I'd lost. He finally turned to face her, his expression guarded. So you see why Corvus and the others are concerned. The last time I trusted a human in blood pact, it nearly destroyed everything. Penny's heart ached for him. I'm not her, I know that. But his eyes said he wasn't entirely sure. You've given me no reason to doubt you. But the council will push. They'll test you, try to find weakness or treachery. Being close to me puts a target on your back. I accepted that risk when I took the pact. Did you? He crossed to her, moving with that predatory speed until he loomed over her. Did you really understand what you were agreeing to? You saw a dying sister and a chance to save her. You didn't see the politics, the danger, the endless scrutiny. You certainly didn't see a king still haunted by betrayal. Maybe not, Penny said, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. But I see it now, and I'm still here. His hand came up to cup her face, cool fingers gentle against her skin. Why? The question was barely a whisper. Why stay when you could run? The pact binds you to return at night, but during the day you could disappear. Take your sister and vanish. I would find you eventually, but you could have months of freedom first, because I don't want to run. The admission felt huge, dangerous. Because you saved Lily's life. Because you've been kind to me when you didn't have to be. Because she trailed off, not quite ready to finish that sentence. Because you what? His eyes searched hers, intent and burning. Because I care about you, she said finally. I know I probably shouldn't. I know it's not smart or logical. But I do. Casimir's breath hitched unnecessary breath, but the sound of it made her heart race. Penny, he murmured, and then his lips were on hers. The kiss was careful at first, testing, like he expected her to pull away. When she didn't, when she pressed closer instead, he deepened it with a groan that resonated through her bones. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her tight against his body, and she felt the leashed power in him, the desperate control he maintained even now. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard though only one of them needed air, Casimir rested his forehead against hers. I shouldn't, he said roughly. You deserve someone mortal, someone who can grow old with you, give you a normal life. I stopped having a normal life the day Lily got sick, Penny said. And I don't want someone else, I want you. His arms tightened around her. The council will use this against us. They'll say I've been compromised, that my judgment is clouded by feeling. Then we'll prove them wrong. She pulled back to look up at him, together. Casimir studied her face like he was memorizing every detail. Then he kissed her again, deeper this time, pouring centuries of loneliness and longing into the press of his lips. Penny melted into him, into the impossible, terrifying, wonderful reality of falling in love with a vampire king. When they finally parted, Casimir kept her close, one hand stroking her hair. If we do this, he said quietly, if we make this real, I will protect you with everything I am. But you must promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll never lie to me. No matter what the council offers you, what threats they make, what temptations they dangle, promise me your honesty. It's the only thing I absolutely require. Penny thought of Isadora, of betrayal and broken trust, and a king learning the hard way not to give his heart freely. I promise, she said solemnly. I will never lie to you, Casimir, you have my word. He kissed her forehead, his lips cool and soft. Then you have my heart, Penny Kingsley, whatever remains of it after 1,000 years, it's yours. The next few weeks were a strange, wonderful dream. Casimir courted her the way a king from another era might elaborate dinners, gifts of jewelry that made her gasp, private concerts from musicians who'd been playing for centuries. But Penny treasured the quiet moments more, sitting together in the library while she read, and he worked through endless correspondence, walking through the penthouse gardens on the rooftop under stars, talking about everything and nothing until dawn forced him to retreat from the coming sun. The bond between them deepened beyond the blood pact. Penny found she could sense his moods even when they were apart, could feel the echo of his presence in her mind like a constant, comforting warmth. And he seemed equally attuned to her, appearing at her side when she was sad or stressed without her saying a word. Lily noticed the change in her. You seem happy, her sister said one afternoon over coffee. Like really happy. Is there someone? Penny smiled into her latte. Maybe tell me everything. What's his name? Where'd you meet? Is he hot? His name is Casimir. I met him through work. Very attractive. Understatement of the century. But it's complicated. Complicated how? How to explain that her boyfriend was an immortal vampire king who ruled the supernatural world from the shadows. He's older, has a lot of responsibilities. We're still figuring things out. But you like him? I love him. The words came out before Penny could stop them, but once they were spoken she knew they were true. I really, really love him. Lily's face split into a grin. Then nothing else matters. If he makes you happy, the rest is just details. If only it were that simple. The attack came on a Tuesday night in January. Penny was returning to the penthouse from visiting Lily, riding up in the private elevator, when she felt Casimir's presence spike with alarm through their bond. The elevator doors opened on chaos. The penthouse was full of vampires, not Casimir's people, but strangers with wild eyes and bared fangs. Furniture was overturned, artwork torn from walls, and in the center of it all, Casimir fought like the ancient warrior he was, moving too fast to follow, cutting down attackers with lethal precision. Penny stumbled back into the elevator, but strong hands grabbed her, yanking her out. She screamed and Casimir's head whipped around. "Penny!" His voice was raw with fear. The vampire holding her mail, with jagged scars across his face, pressed a blade to her throat. "Call off your guards, your majesty, or the human dies." Casimir froze mid-strike, surrounded by bodies and enemies. His crimson eyes locked on Penny, and she saw true terror there for the first time. "Let her go." "Matthias, this is between us, is it?" Matthias laughed, the sound unhinged. "You made it about her when you took a human to your bed. The king who swore never to trust a mortal again, breaking his own vow. You've grown weak, Casimir. The Western courts deserve better. This is a coup," Casimir said flatly. "Backed by Corvus, I assume? The council acts in the best interests of our kind. Your obsession with this human has made you vulnerable. Time for new leadership." Matthias's blade pressed harder and Penny felt blood trickle down her neck. "Call off your guards, abdicate peacefully. We'll let you both live in exile." "Exile?" Casimir's laugh was bitter. "You mean imprisonment. I know Corvus too well. He wouldn't risk leaving me alive and free." His eyes found Penny's across the room. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I should have seen this coming, should have protected you better." "It's not your fault," Penny managed, though the blade at her throat made speaking difficult. "How touching," Matthias sneered. "The doomed lovers, but time's up, your majesty. Choose your throne or her life." Penny saw Casimir's expression shift, saw him preparing to surrender. For her. He'd give up everything he'd built, 1,000 years of power and purpose, to keep her safe. She couldn't let that happen. Moving on pure instinct, Penny slammed her head backward into Matthias's face. The vampire cursed, his grip loosening for just a second, long enough for Penny to twist away. The blade sliced her shoulder instead of her throat, pain flaring bright and hot, but she was free. "Now," Casimir roared. The penthouse exploded with motion. Seraphine appeared from nowhere, her white hair flying as she tore into Matthias with feral grace. More of Casimir's guards poured from hidden doors, overwhelming the attackers with brutal efficiency. Casimir was at Penny's side in an instant, catching her as her knees buckled. "You foolish, brave, magnificent woman," he breathed, pressing his hand to her bleeding shoulder. "What were you thinking? That you're not giving up your kingdom for me," Penny said through gritted teeth. "Not happening. The hell I'm not." His eyes blazed as he healed her wound with his blood, the cut closing rapidly. "You're more important than any thrones, Zimmer. I love you." The words stopped her cold. "I love you, Penny Kingsley. I have loved you since the night you walked into my home and offered everything to save your sister. I love your courage and your loyalty, and the way you see me as something more than just a king. And I will burn this entire world down before I let anyone hurt you." Penny's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, but you're not giving up who you are for me. We'll find another way." Around them, the fight was ending. Matthias lay dead at Seraphine's feet, along with a dozen other vampires. The survivors were being subdued. Forced to their knees, Casimir stood, pulling Penny with him, keeping her behind him protectively. "Where is Corvus?" he demanded. One of the captured vampires, a female with white hair matted with blood, spat at his feet. "He's taking the throne room as we speak. By dawn, he'll be crowned the new king of shadows. Your reign is over." Casimir's expression went cold and terrifying. "Seraphine, secure the penthouse and protect Penny with your life." "I'm going to the throne room." "I'm coming with you," Penny said immediately. "Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. I'm your blood pact. Where you go, I go." She grabbed his hand, squeezing hard. "Besides, you'll need me." "Need you for what?" Penny thought fast, an idea crystallizing. "Corvus is making this about me, right? About you being compromised by a human? Then let me prove him wrong. Let me show the council that I'm not a weakness, I'm a strength." Casimir studied her, conflict clear on his face. Finally, he nodded. Stay close to me, do exactly as I say, and if things go wrong, run. Promise me." "I promise." He kissed her hard and fast, then swept out of the penthouse with Penny at his side and Seraphine following. They descended in the elevator to a sub-basement Penny hadn't known existed, then through tunnels carved from bedrock that stretched beneath the city. The vampire realm, hidden in plain sight. The throne room was a cathedral of stone and shadow, lit by torches that burned with blue flame. At its center stood an obsidian throne inlaid with silver, ancient and imposing. And on that throne sat Lord Corvus, a crown of black metal on his white hair. He looked up as Casimir entered and his ice-chip eyes widened. "You were supposed to be dead. I'm notoriously hard to kill." Casimir's voice echoed through the chamber. "Get off my throne, Corvus. It's not your throne anymore." Corvus stood, and Penny saw that the room was filled with vampires, the council and beyond, witnesses to this coup. "I have claimed it by right of challenge. You have been declared unfit to rule. By whose authority? By mine." An ancient vampire stepped forward, female with hair like starlight and eyes that held millennia. "I am Alara, first of the elders. I witnessed the rise of the first vampire kings, and I witness now the fall of one who has forgotten his duty." Casimir's jaw tightened. "Alara, I thought you were long since dead." "I awoke when I felt the balance of power shifting." Her gaze moved to Penny, assessing and cold. "The king who swore never to trust a human again has taken one to his heart." "History repeats, young Casimir. You learned nothing from Isidora's betrayal." "Penny is nothing like Isidora." "Prove it," Corvus challenged. "Let us test her loyalty." Casimir moved in front of Penny protectively. "She's not part of this. She's the entire reason for this," Corvus shot back. "Your attachment to her has made you weak, so let us see how strong that attachment truly is." He gestured, and two vampires dragged a struggling figure forward. Penny's blood turned to ice. It was Lily. "No," she breathed. "No, you can't. Your sister is healthy and strong because of Casimir's blood," Corvus said, his voice carrying through the throne room. "That blood can be taken back, reversed. She'll return to the cancer-ridden state she was in before, and this time, there will be no miracle cure." He looked at Casimir. "Unless you abdicate, give up your crown, leave the Western courts, and we'll let both humans live in peace." Casimir's power filled the room like a living thing, making the torches flicker wildly. "You dare threaten them? I dare do what's necessary to save our kind from your weakness." Corvus's expression was cold. "Choose, your majesty, your throne or your loves." Penny felt Casimir's anguish through their bond, the impossible choice tearing him apart. She looked at Lily, pale and terrified, then at the vampire she loved, the king who'd given her everything, and she made her choice. "There's another option," she said, stepping out from behind Casimir. "Trial by combat." The room went silent, Alara's ancient eyes fixed on her. "Explain, human. In the old days, disputes were settled by champions fighting for their cause, right? Let Casimir and Corvus fight for the throne. Winner takes all, no more politics. No more threats, just strength versus strength." Penny looked at Corvus. "Unless you're afraid you can't beat him in fair combat." Corvus's face twisted with rage. "I fear nothing, least of all this has been king." "Then prove it," Penny challenged. "Fight him. Let the council see who's truly the strongest." Alara's lips curved slightly. "The human speaks wisdom. Trial by combat is the oldest law, superseding even council authority." Her gaze moved to Casimir. "Do you accept, your majesty?" Casimir looked at Penny, and she saw love and pride and terror warring in his crimson eyes. Then he turned to Corvus. "I accept. Trial by combat for the crown. When I win, you and everyone who supported this coup will face judgment." "When I win," Corvus countered, "the humans go free unharmed." "That is my one condition," agreed. Casimir stripped off his coat, his movements controlled despite the violence clearly coiling in him. "Seraphine, take Penny and Lily to safety." "No." Penny grabbed his arm. "I stay here. You're fighting for us. I need to witness it." He cupped her face in his hands. "If I lose, you won't, but if I do, you run. You take Lily and you disappear. Promise me." "I promise." She kissed him, pouring every ounce of love and faith into it. "Now go win." The fight was brutal and beautiful and terrifying. Corvus was powerful, old and vicious, attacking with a fury that seemed unstoppable. But Casimir was a king who'd held his throne for centuries through strength and cunning. He moved like violence made elegant, every strike precise and devastating. They tore through the throne room, smashing stone and sending vampires scrambling for safety. Blood flew black and gleaming in the torchlight. Penny watched with her heart in her throat, feeling every blow Casimir took through their bond, sending him every ounce of her love and faith in return. The fight raged for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Then Corvus made a mistake, overextended on a strike, leaving himself open for a crucial second. Casimir didn't hesitate. He moved with speed that blurred reality, his hand punching through Corvus's chest and emerging with his heart. Corvus's eyes went wide. Impossible, he gasped. I am the king of shadows, Casimir said coldly. And you forgot what that means. He crushed the heart in his hand. Corvus crumbled to dust. Silence fell over the throne room. Then, one by one, the vampires began to kneel. Even Alara bowed her ancient head in acknowledgement. The throne is yours, your majesty, she said formally, as it has always been. Casimir stood in the center of the room, blood-stained and victorious, every inch the warrior king he'd been born to be. Then he turned and walked straight to Penny, ignoring everyone else, and pulled her into his arms. Are you hurt? He checked her over frantically. Did anyone touch you? I'm fine, you won. She cupped his face, making him look at her. You won, Kazza, because of you. He kissed her fiercely. Your idea saved us, saved everything. Let Lily go, Penny said, pulling back. Please. She doesn't deserve to be part of this. Casimir nodded and gestured to the vampires holding Lily. They released her immediately, and she ran to Penny, throwing her arms around her sister. What the hell is going on? Lily demanded, her voice shaking. These people, they're talking about vampires and kings and blood pacts, and Penny, what's happening? Penny held her sister tight, meeting Casimir's eyes over Lily's shoulder. He nodded slightly permission. I need to tell you something, Penny said gently. About how you were cured, about where I've been living, about everything. She explained it all while Casimir dealt with the aftermath of the coup council members swearing renewed loyalty, conspirators being led away to face judgment, order being restored. When Penny finished, Lily stared at her in shock. You sold yourself to a vampire king to save my life? I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Lily's eyes filled with tears. You're an idiot. The best, bravest idiot in the world. She hugged Penny again, then pulled back. And you love him, this vampire king? Yes. I know it's crazy. It's the least crazy thing about this situation. Lily glanced at Casimir, who was watching them from across the room. He loves you too. I can tell by the way he looks at you. Penny smiled despite everything. He does. Later, after Lily had been escorted home with an honor guard of vampires sworn to protect her, after the council had dispersed and the throne room had emptied, Casimir and Penny stood alone in his penthouse watching the sun rise over Portland. That was too close, Casimir said quietly. I nearly lost you, nearly lost everything, but you didn't. Penny leaned into his side, his arm coming around her automatically. We won, together. The council won't try this again, but there will be others who see you as a weakness, a target. His arm tightened. I can't keep you completely safe, Penny, not from my world. I don't need you to keep me safe from everything. She turned to face him. I need you to trust me to stand beside you, to be your strength, not your weakness. You are my strength. He touched her face tenderly. You are my heart, my reason, my purpose beyond duty and power. I love you beyond reason, beyond time, beyond everything. Then let me truly be yours. Penny took a breath. Turn me. Casimir went absolutely still. What? Turn me into a vampire, make me immortal like you. That way I can stand beside you for centuries instead of decades. I can truly be your equal, your partner, your no. The word was sharp-alute, never. Penny's heart cracked. Why not? Because immortality is a curse as much as a gift. His hands gripped her shoulders. Because you deserve to live a full human life, to grow old naturally, to experience everything mortality offers. Because I love you too much to trap you in eternal darkness just so I don't have to lose you. But you will lose me. Tears spilled down Penny's cheeks. In 50 years, 60 if I'm lucky. And then you'll be alone again for another 1,000 years. How is that better? Because you'll have truly lived. His voice broke. And I'll have had the privilege of loving you, of being loved by you, for whatever time we're given. That's enough, Penny. It has to be enough. It's not fair, life rarely is. He pulled her close, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. But I promise you this, I will love you every day you have. I will make sure you experience joy and beauty and everything wonderful this world offers. And when your time comes, whenever that may be, I will be there holding your hand. You will not face the darkness alone. Penny cried into his chest, mourning the future she'd imagined and accepting the one that was possible. Casimir held her through it. This ancient king who'd fought battles and ruled kingdoms, brought low by love for a mortal woman. When her tears finally subsided, Penny pulled back to look at him. Okay, she said. We'll do it your way. Live the time we have and make it count. Relief flooded his features. Thank you. But I have one condition, anything. Teach me about your world. Let me meet your people, understand your politics, help you rule. If I'm going to be with you, I want to truly be part of your life, not just a human you keep safe in a tower. Casimir's smile was radiant. Done. I'll teach you everything, our history, our laws, our ways. You'll be a queen in all but name. He kissed her softly. My queen. My heart, my Penny. Your Penny, she agreed. Forever, however long that may be. The years that followed were extraordinary. Penny became a fixture in the vampire court, Respected for her intelligence and courage, she mediated disputes between vampires and humans, helped Casimir navigate changing times, and proved repeatedly that she was far more than just a human the king was fond of. Lily flourished, graduating with honors and pursuing her dreams of marine biology. She fell in love with a kind man named Thomas who accepted the supernatural elements of her family with remarkable grace. Penny stood as maid of honor at her wedding, Casimir watching from the shadows with pride in his crimson eyes. The blood pact between Penny and Casimir deepened into something beautiful and unbreakable. Their love became legend among vampires, the king who'd learned to trust again, and the human who'd proven worthy of that trust. They traveled the world together, Penny experiencing wonders she'd never imagined while Casimir rediscovered beauty he'd forgotten in his long existence. On Penny's 30th birthday, Casimir took her to a private island he owned in the Caribbean. They walked on beaches of white sand under stars that seemed close enough to touch. "I have a gift for you," he said, producing a small velvet box. Penny opened it to find a ring silver set with a ruby that gleamed like captured fire. "Casimir, marry me." His voice was soft, vulnerable in a way he only ever was with her. "I know I can't give you forever. I know our time is measured and precious, but give me what time we have. Be my wife in the human way, so that for whatever years you have you are mine not just by magic but by choice, by love, by that simple human promise that means more than any vampire oath." Penny's vision blurred with happy tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring on her finger and kissed her as waves crashed around their feet. The immortal and the mortal, bound by something stronger than blood magic, bound by love freely given and gratefully received. They married in a simple ceremony on the island, with Lily and Seraphine as witnesses. Penny wore a white dress that moved like water, and Casimir wore all black with the silver crown of his office on his white hair. When they said their vows, Penny felt the blood pact hum in recognition, magic acknowledging what the heart already knew. "I promise to love you until my last breath," Penny said, her hands clasped in Casimir's. "To stand beside you, trust you, challenge you when you need it, and support you always. You saved my sister's life, but you gave me a reason to live mine. I am yours, Casimir, completely and joyfully. I promise to cherish every moment we have," Casimir said, his crimson eyes bright with emotion. "To protect you, honor you, and love you beyond reason. You taught me that immortality without love is just existence, but mortality with love is a life truly lived. You are my heart, Penny, my home, my reason for everything." They kissed as husband and wife while the sun set over the Caribbean, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The years passed like pages in a beloved book too quickly, but each one full of meaning. Penny aged gracefully, silver threading through her chestnut hair, laugh lines appearing around her eyes. Casimir remained unchanged, eternally beautiful, watching the woman he loved grow older with a mixture of pride and grief. On Penny's 60th birthday, they threw a party at the penthouse. Lily came with her husband and their 3 children, all of whom adored their mysterious Uncle Casimir. Seraphine had baked a cake, a skill she'd learned specifically for Penny's birthdays, and the penthouse was full of laughter and love. Later, after everyone had left, Penny stood by the windows with Casimir looking out over Portland. The city had changed so much since the night she'd first walked into his world, but the view from here remained constant, beautiful, home. "Tired?" Casimir asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "A little." Penny leaned back against him. "But happy, so incredibly happy." "Good." He kissed her temple. "You deserve happiness. You've earned it 1,000 times over." They stood in comfortable silence, the bond between them humming contentedly. After 6 decades together, they could communicate as much in silence as in words. "I'm not afraid," Penny said eventually, "of getting older, of what comes after. You've given me such a beautiful life, Casimir. I have no regrets." His arms tightened around her. "You are the bravest person I have ever known, braver than any warrior, any king, any vampire who's lived 1,000 years. His voice roughened with emotion. "I love you, Penny. I will love you until stars burn out and time ends. I know." She turned in his arms, looking up at the face she'd memorized decades ago. "And I love you, forever, however long that may be." The decades continued to pass, bringing joys and sorrows in equal measure. Lily lived a long, full life, surrounded by children and grandchildren. Penny held her sister's hand as she passed peacefully at 86, grateful beyond words that her desperate bargain so many years ago had given Lily all the time she deserved. Penny herself continued strong well into her 80s, sustained by love and purpose and perhaps a lingering trace of vampire magic from the blood pact. She remained active in the vampire court, a living legend respected by creatures who'd seen centuries pass. But time is relentless, even for those touched by immortality. On a quiet spring night, 3 months after Penny's 87th birthday, She woke in the early hours feeling weak and distant. Casimir was beside her immediately, immortally aware of her distress. "What do you need, you?" Penny whispered. "Just you." He gathered her into his arms, holding her carefully. Through their bond she felt his anguish, his desperate desire to fix this, to give her more time. But they both knew this moment had always been inevitable. "Don't be sad," Penny murmured. "We had 64 years. That's more than most people get with their great love. It's not enough." Tears tracked down Casimir's face, the first she'd seen in decades. "It will never be enough, maybe not, but it was real. It was beautiful." Penny lifted a hand to his face, her fingers trembling. "And I would choose it all again. The blood pact, you, all of it. You were worth every moment, every sacrifice, every breath. You were my redemption." Casimir's voice broke. "You taught me to love again, to trust again, to hope for something beyond duty and endless night. You were my light, Penny, my heart, my everything. Then let me go with love instead of grief." Penny's eyes were growing heavy. "Remember me happy. Remember us dancing in the penthouse and arguing about books, and that time you tried to cook for me and nearly burned down the kitchen. Remember the good things." "I'll remember everything." He held her closer, as if he could keep her from slipping away through sheer force of will. "Every moment, every word, every smile. You will be with me forever, Penny, in every sunset, every act of kindness, every time I choose mercy over cruelty. You changed me. You'll always be part of who I am." "Good." Penny smiled, peace settling over her. "That's good. Love them, Casimir. The humans who come after me, protect them. Rule with compassion. Make the world better because you're in it, I promise." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you too." The words came out barely audible. "My vampire king. My Casimir. My love." She closed her eyes, still smiling, and slipped away as peacefully as falling asleep. Casimir held her for a long time after, this ancient king brought to his knees by grief. But even through the pain he felt something else: gratitude. Gratitude for every moment they'd shared, every challenge they'd faced, every ordinary day that had been made extraordinary by love. She had been mortal. Their time had been limited, but the love they'd built would last forever in his heart, in the changes she'd inspired in him, in the legacy of compassion and hope she'd left behind. He had given her sister life. She had given him a reason to truly live his immortal existence. And that, in the end, was worth any price. The funeral was held 3 days later in a private ceremony. The vampire court attended in unprecedented numbers, paying respect to the human who'd been their king's great love. Lily's grandchildren came, crying for the great aunt who'd told them such wonderful stories. And through it all, Casimir stood tall and strong, fulfilling the duty Penny had asked of him, to remember the good things, to honor what they'd built together. After everyone left, he returned to the penthouse alone. He walked to the windows overlooking Portland, seeing the city lit up in the darkness, and felt Penny's presence in every shadow. "I'll keep my promises," he said quietly to the empty room. "I'll rule with compassion. I'll protect humans and vampires alike. I'll make you proud." He touched the window glass, cool beneath his fingers. "And when I finally meet the true death, centuries from now, I'll find you waiting. I believe that. I have to believe that." Somewhere in the city, a young woman laughed with joy. A child took his first steps. Life continued, beautiful and brief and precious, and the vampire king watched over it all, carrying in his immortal heart the love of a mortal woman who'd taught him that forever wasn't measured in years, but in the depth of connection between two souls. Penny Kingsley had entered a blood pact with a vampire king to save her dying sister. The price had been her freedom, her normal life, her future, but what she'd received in return was love beyond measure, a life full of wonder, and the knowledge that she'd changed an immortal being for the better. In the end, that wasn't a price at all, it was a gift. And it was forever.